Record. There.
There it comes.
Okay. Whoops, we're getting echo. All right, so we all know one another, provided everybody knows Dixon and Dixon that you know, folks. Do we need any intros?
I've had some email correspondence with folks, but just to reintroduce myself, I'm Dixon Galvez-Searle. I'm one of the communication specialists at the national office, and the person who does most of our email communications. So that is me.
Okay, and I hope we come out of this kind of on the same page, but it's not absolutely essential. I think what got us here today is that years ago, um, since I was involved in a lot of kind of working with the California database and finding that Dixon was always as helpful as he could possibly be in sending out blasts, either to the state or to the Bay Area chapter. But sometimes, he'd have a stack of work. And, it just seemed like if we could initiate blasts ourselves, we could unload that task from Dixon. Uh, I should just add, Dixon, you've also been helpful. You do more than just click the send button. I mean, Dixon's really helpful in terms of editing. He sometimes catches me on a link that doesn't work, or he reformats stuff. So we want the quality to be, just as good. Um, we want to make it possible to organize and reorganize chapter mailing lists ourselves in California. And, whether we're going to need to go back to Dixon for help with that or not is kind of what we're going to learn about today. But the basic idea is that for email communications, we have potential lists that we want to send to. It could be all of the active and lapsed members of PNHP California, which is over 3,000. It could include non-member contacts, and there are quite a few of those. It could include SNAP students. And we want to be able to compose the copy, lay out our own emails, a chapter or the state, and then have it go out as a blast to the intended audience. So I think Dixon agreed that that might be a good idea, that it was all possible. And then the whole getting to where we are today has kind of been suspended for a long time. So we're finally seeing if we can, come away with that tool in our, in our toolbox. Okay, so other people looking for, and Dixon, I mean, basically, I want to turn this over to you. I just wanted to share that little bit of history, but also see if the other two chapters that are here today are looking for something additional. And let me say one other thing, which is that if a chapter, so I know, for example, that the Humboldt chapter uses MailChimp. The fact that we're setting up this tool that we can have access to doesn't mean that we're requiring all chapters to do it this way. If they want to continue using what they're using, that's fine. But there are certain pros in having a kind of unified statewide system that meshes with the national database. So it's not mandatory, but I think it in the end, I think it has advantages. So I'm done. Anybody else?
No, I think we're ready for Dixon to take it away.
Great.
All right. Um, so with that said, I can go ahead and share my screen. Um, all right. It looks like I do need permission to do that. So I just sent a request to you, Hank, and now it looks like I can. Let's see here. Okay. All right. Okay. So you all should be able to see my screen there. Is that right? Okay,
Yes.
great. All right. Sorry, I'm moving windows around here. There we go. Okay. All right. So the system that we use to send email blasts is called Salsa. And if we set up, we can set up accounts um, for different chapters in California. There are other chapters throughout the country, a few that have accounts of their own. So when you have that set up, you'll just log in a web browser, and you will see a screen similar to this. So there are all sorts of things that we do in Salsa. It is home to our fundraising pages, our event pages. It's home to uh, our contact your legislator forms for the Medicare for All Act and other things that we've done, petitions, email sign up forms, all of that. So there are a lot of communications activities that we use Salsa for, and everybody who signs up or engages with one of those, they fill out the form, their information comes into our database. I'll also say, just as an aside, that this is Salsa Engage, which is the part that you will be using. There is a database that's connected to this called Salsa CRM. Matt is primarily the person who uses that, um, but the two talk to each other. Salsa Engage is the one that you all would be concerned with. So I think there's two main activities that chapters would be doing in Engage. The first is laying out and sending an email, and I can go through what that looks like. The second is you may want to import supporters from time to time, and I can show you what that looks like as well. Um, but primarily, you're going to be sending email blasts. So if you're not in it already, this menu to the left has a whole bunch of options. Email is the one you want to be on. So you'll click on that. And then there's all of these tabs at the top. Um, but the majority of them are things that you are not going to want to worry about. Autoresponders, for example, is like if we have donation forms set up, we set up the automatic email that somebody gets when they complete that with their donation receipt and whatever message we want to put into it. But the option that you'll want to be going for pretty much 100% of the time is this create an email button over at the top right. So you would click on that and you would click on email. Email series is something else entirely, and that is something we use, but it's basically a series of emails that people would get after they perform a certain action. So we do have some emails that go out to people when they sign up for membership um, after a certain amount of time. So they'll get one email immediately, they'll get another email 24 hours after, they'll get other emails a few days after that about different things we want them to know about PNHP. But email series, it's an option. If any chapters do want to explore that, it's a little bit more complex, but I think for our purposes, email is the one you'll want to use. Um, so this is for a single email blast. And I'll just show you what it looks like because we sent out email blast for the Bay Area chapter this morning, actually. Um, I think in most cases, what you're going to want to do is to take a previous email and use it as a template. We've developed, we have a pretty consistent template for the emails that Hank has been sending out. So I'll just show you what that looks like, for example. So you can select the email you want to use. There's also a search bar here on the left. So if, for example, um, we had not just sent a Bay Area email, I could like search for SF and it's going to show me results and I can choose the one that I want to use. So I'll just choose this most recent one. I've selected that. Um, I use these naming conventions just for organizational purposes and because it makes it easier for me to search for things if I need to. You can use whatever you like. Um, but once you've selected your template, you'll go to the top and name the email. So I'm just going to say May 9th, just to make it a different name. Once you've named your email, whatever you like, you click next at the bottom. And the name of the email, the description here, these are all for internal use only. So nobody who's receiving the email is going to see anything that's related to that. It's mostly for our internal organization. Um, this at the bottom here, where it says what type of email is this, you're almost always going to want to choose local news and events. So these categories are here because if somebody were to unsubscribe from our emails, they would have the option of unsubscribing from uh, certain categories only. So, for example, if somebody only wants to get local news and is not interested in national news, they can uncheck everything except for local news and events. If they only want to hear about the annual meeting, they can just select annual meeting. Etc. So sometimes people do that. It's a good option for people who might not want to receive certain types of messages, but would want to receive other types of messages. So it prevents us from having, somebody fully unsubscribe from our list if they are interested in certain types of messages. So we've selected local news and events from this drop-down menu. We're going to choose next. And then this is where we're choosing the audience. So um, this is what we use for the Bay Area emails consistently. Um, but there are a few options here. And I think for different chapters, we can set up uh, groups within Engage. And then you can just select whatever that is. So for example, um, here it says that we're targeting to all contacts who are within 50 miles of this central San Francisco zip code. It's actually this is the zip code from the library where the meetings used to be held in person. Um, and then there's also a static group that we had uploaded that of email addresses that Hank had provided to us from an in-person sign up and a list that Jeff G had compiled over the years. So we have that as well. Um, but I'm just gonna cancel these out to show you what some of the options are. Um, So the three options here at the top are you can send to everybody, which we do not want to do for chapter-based emails. You can select a group, and in this case, you would just click here and you go into groups, right? Um, and not to get too complex, but there are two different types of groups. There are static groups and there are what's called CRM groups. So for example, this is the most recent one we've uploaded. Missouri contacts April 2026. That's from a spreadsheet that Ed Weisbart maintains that includes like in-person signups and things that he adds to the spreadsheet manually. Um, so that's something that we would have imported ourselves, similar to the Bay Area chapter list that I just showed you guys. CRM groups are different. So, for example, this one here says California chapter Ventura, California chapter Santa Barbara, Bay Area. Um, so these are based on criteria that we set up in CRM. Um, so it might be based on zip code, it might be based on address range, um, it might be based on city. In some cases, for certain chapters, it might be based on the entire state. Um, but that list will continually update. So if you have people who are signing up to or engaging or becoming members, signing a petition, etc., they'll automatically be added to this list. Deborah, you have your hand up.
Yeah, since I mean, Hank knows what the Bay Area selection is or the group that they send to, but Nancy and Lee represent Santa Barbara chapter and I represent Napa. So I'd kind of be interested in what the content of those would be. I don't know, Lee and Nancy, if you need to see that, but because those would be the things we would select if we're sending something out. But Napa also covers Sonoma County. So I'm just curious what's in the Napa chapter. Is it, and it's not a static group, it's a CRM. So
Mm. Yeah, I don't know offhand the criteria that was used when these were set up. I did not actually set these CRM groups up.
oh,
I
okay.
think Matt may have done that. So these were set up at the beginning of the year,
Go
in
ahead.
January.
And Hank has his hand up.
Yeah.
I just want to jump in. This is a constant work in progress, and I hope that we come away from this with the um, understanding that we can be flexible and creative. So, for example, when we started this for the Bay Area chapter, uh, this is going back, I don't know, 12, 15 years ago. Uh, Jeff G was our chapter chair. Uh, and so Jeff and I interacted with Dixon. And my memory is that we used a radius of 75 miles from the ferry building in San Francisco. And Dixon just put a pin on the map and drew a big circle.
Mm.
And we captured all of those folks and said, this is a reasonable audience to send our Bay Area meeting announcements to.
Mm-hmm.
Then, as time went by, Sacramento became more active, and we didn't want to encroach on Sacramento. So I think we pulled back a little bit. And then Marin cleaved itself off and got a chapter charter. So there's potential overlap. Think of a map of the state, turn it into a Venn diagram, basically. There's overlap. So we want our individual members to be able to select, but we also want to select and, err on the side of making sure that we want to be as inclusive as possible. So what I'm getting at is that, from where I sit, now there's no South Bay chapter. So I want to make sure that folks are included in Bay Area communication unless they opt out. Presumably, that philosophy would guide other chapters as well. And eventually, we as the COC need to decide, well, what about folks that aren't captured by a chapter list? What if somebody lives in, Bishop, California, or we don't have a chapter in San Diego and so on. So basically what I'm getting at is that I think what we want is flexibility. We don't have to make the decisions now, but if we, have a committee that works on this and decide that we want to make adjustments, then Dixon is going to guide us to, do we do it through you, Dixon, or do it through Matt? But we have to set up criteria, and the criteria could be instructions that can be used by SALSA that could be based on a radius, or it could be based on counties or congressional districts, state legislative districts, zip codes, whatever seems reasonable. Is that fair to say, Dixon?
Yeah, it's we can definitely make adjustments, and I was looking in our database real quick, and I didn't see obviously where our groups were set up, but again, Matt is mostly the one who uses that, so I will ask him today um, if we can find out what the criteria were for these chapters that were set up earlier in the year, and that should be very simple to do. But in the meantime, let's say that so this is a Bay Area chapter that we're putting together. Um, so we would just select that group, right? Um, and I think largely if you all are sending chapter-based emails to your chapters, that these are the lists that you're going to want to use. So you'll go to the group, you'll choose the one that corresponds with your chapter, and then you'll go from there. Um, I will say that there are some advanced targeting options as well. So, for example, if you wanted to go into this custom supporter query, you could set up something based on address range. You could set up something um, maybe based on certain cities or zip codes. You could set up something based on legislative districts, if you wanted to do that. You could set up something based on whether somebody was a member or not, whether somebody is a student or not a student. So there's all sorts of options there. But just to give you an example, so if you were to choose groups and, for example, we have this Bay Area group, um, and we also wanted to um, make sure that we're targeting students. So we could go to groups, and then we have a lot of groups, but this is searchable as well. So if I go to the search bar at the top and just look for Snap, I know that there is a Snap members group here. So I can choose that. And then now the target is Bay Area people who are in the Bay Area chapter group and are also in, I did not select it for some reason, also in Snap. So those are options. And then it gives you an update of your numbers and stuff. You can also choose if you want to exclude people from an email blast. You can exclude certain groups or exclude certain individual email addresses. That's not something we use too often, but it is an option. Um, so, but I think in general, you're just going to want to use the groups that are set up for your chapter. Then when you go to next, this is the actual laying out of the email. So uh, this is where the action is. Um, at the top, you have sender details, so you can put whatever you like for your from name. Um, and that is, what will show up in somebody's email box as the sender. There is a from email address and a reply to email address. These actually do need to be PNHP.org email addresses. So unfortunately, you can't have it come from a personal email or reply to a personal email. Um, it has to be a PNHP.org email. We have this PNHP-CA at PNHP.org email that we set up many years ago that we've been using for the Bay Area emails. Um, we can also have things go to our general info email if you don't want to manage responses. We tend to get very few responses to direct responses to emails. But if we do that, then, we could forward anything that comes as a reply to you. Or we could also set up email addresses for individual chapters. It's very simple to do that. We don't have a limit on the number of accounts we can have. So we could set up you know, um, um, you know, Napa at pnhp.org or whatever you would want your email address to be. Okay.
Dixon, just a quick
Yeah.
thing. Um, it's true that you know uh, that email account was set up in discussion with the Bay Area chapter, but we've we've used it for the entire state, and we've been using it that way for I don't know all the years that it's existed, and that's the email that we put on our website for contacting. So
Yeah.
basically, um, at the moment, I think Stephen Vernon and I have the logon info. Of course, you have the logon info, and that mailbox gets checked at least a couple of times a week. And we do get email that is destined for somebody in other chapters, and then we forward it. So that's just the current state of affairs. And the main thing is if we set up chapter emails, that's fine. But when you set that up, you're assuming the responsibility for making sure that you check the inbox and handle the email appropriately. So that's that's just a profile of how we're doing it right now. But
Yeah.
the COC can decide,
Yeah.
or the chapters can decide.
All right. So yes, that's something that, we can decide or individual chapters can decide. Um, so there's also the subject line. Um, and you can also customize preview text. So what that is I'll just switch over to my inbox real quick. But so this email right here that I'm hovering over, this would be Beth Sir, that would be the sender name. Question on slides, that would be the subject line. And then this text here that's in light gray is the preview text. A lot of email um, programs have this. Um, Sometimes some email programs use AI for it now. Um, but you can override that with customized preview text. Usually, historically, it's just taken the first line of an email. Um, but it's nice to be able to customize that because a lot of people do, just look at things in their inbox at a glance, and being able to see that preview text can either prompt somebody to open the email or give some additional information that's not in the subject line. Um, General suggestion for subject line would be to keep things short and sweet, and to have it be only really pertinent information. Uh, and best practice is also that it's not terrible to keep. It's actually a good idea to keep your subject line a little bit vague. Um, and you can add some more details in the preview text as well. But you're going to, use that for add whatever you want there. Um, and then the actual email itself is here to the left where it says edit email content. So when you click on that, it's going to open up this new screen. And the way salsa works is, it'll take a moment to get used to. It'll take a little bit of practice, but it's basically dragging and dropping elements on top of each other. So, for example, this is an image element at the top where we have the Bay Area logo. Below that, we have a divider. Below that, we have some text. Below that, we have another text box and another text box. And then there are these blocks at the bottom that, we keep pretty standard. Um, so if you want to add an element, for example, if you want to add a photo, um, you can just go here to add an element and you can take the one that you like and drag it over. I think by and large, uh, the only three that you're likely to use are text, image, and button. Um, Call out is quite similar to button. I don't actually know what the difference is. Divider is these lines here, if you want to use something like that. And everything else below here is not really something that you're going to need to worry about. Um, so a text box, for example, you drag it into place, you put it where you want. So let's say we want it below this. Um, if you want to add an image, similarly. Once it's in this drag and drop space, you can also rearrange things. So if you hover over any given block, you can hover over this sort of series of dots, click, and then drag to a different space. Um, and then there are two things that you're going to want to do to customize those blocks. Um, so you can click on this pencil icon to edit, for example, the text. And when you get into this text editor, it's, very similar to any basic text editor. You can do simple formatting. You can change sizes. You can change font colors. Um, you can change text orientation, etc. So, but your text is here. You can add links. Um, I find in general that if you type out what you want to say and format what you want to have in a Google Doc, it's pretty easy to copy and paste that over.
Mhm.
Um, I'll just come over here for an example. This is an email I'm putting together for later this week. But this is in a Google Doc. You see it has a few links in it already. So it is as simple as just copying that and coming over here. I'll use the new text box that we put in, select all and paste. And there you go. It's added a few spaces, which you can just delete. But in general, in Google Docs, it will keep your formatting. If I had had some bolding in there, it would have kept that, etc. If you do that in Word, it's not going to play as nice with Salsa. I
Mhm.
don't know why that is, but that's just the fact of the matter. So I would encourage you, if you're comfortable with Google Docs, to use that. You can also just write directly in Salsa if you're comfortable doing that. Sometimes for short emails, I'll use that route. Um, so this is for formatting the what's in the text box itself. There's also this gear icon here, where you can edit the container settings, which is basically the padding, the margins around it. I tend to do a two unit um, margin on the left and the right to give a little bit of space. Um, so you can save that. And for example, let's say, your space between the top and the bottom. Um, if I'm seeing this, I'm seeing some space between these two that I don't really like. So you can go in and change the bottom padding there to 0. Well, there's still too much here, so let's say we'll change that to maybe 0.5. And this is something that you're eyeballing. And let's say, I like that. Um, so you can tweak that is the basic point. Um, if you really want to get into the weeds, what I tend to do is a 1.25 at the top and 0.5 at the bottom, uh, which tends to provide some pretty even spacing. But again, you're gonna play with that and see what you like. Um, for images, if you click the pencil icon to edit the image, you can add you can add an image. So we have everything that we've uploaded to Engage already, and you can choose something from there. There's a search bar at the top. Um, so I'll show you what that looks like in a moment, but you can also upload an image from your computer. So you would just click in here, and then choose your image from your desktop or your downloads folder or wherever it is on your hard drive, and upload it. But for now, I'll just grab an image from our existing image library and show you what that looks like. There is an edit image function in here. I would urge you to steer clear of that. Much easier to get the image the way you want it outside of Salsa and then just import and use it. Um, there are alignment options, which, I think it will be best to use an image that covers the full width of your email. So that's not something that I think by and large you'll need to use. You can also add a link to an image, which is very handy. So, for example, if you have an image that has a URL in it, this one might be a little bit better because I think it does have a link in it. Sometimes people will try to click on that link. Um, and if you want to add a link, you can do that. You can add, when you go in there, there's two options. There's your pages, which is the pages that we've set up in Salsa. There are a ton of them. Um, but I think for your purposes, it's almost always going to be an external page. So if there's like a registration form, for example, a Zoom sign up, you can just copy and paste that link in here. I'll just put the link to our website for an example. You can, if you copy and paste a link in here, it will automatically change this protocol so that generally is not something you have to worry about. But if you want to set up for an email address in particular, you can set mail to and then put um, an email address in here too. So you have both those options. This second page here is nothing you'll ever have uh, to tweak. So once you've chosen your image, you'll choose Save Image, and then it's in there. So for example, like, you see this one has this link here. If you were using an image that has a link or a QR code in it, I'd encourage you to make the image itself linked to that URL. You can also, again, uh, change the container settings with this gear icon. And for images, that's mostly to give it a little bit of space. Again, I do have usually put a 2 unit measurement um, at the left and the right, so it's aligned with the text. Um, you can also, if you want, change the background, which is this very tiny little option here. Um, so, let's say you want a different color background. You can choose whichever color you want. You can go around here. If you know the specific color profile, you can add it there. Or you also have um, some basic options. But let's say, we like this blue. We'll choose that. Um, and I'm going to go ahead and put some top and bottom paddings so you can see what that looks like. You might also notice that there's 2 units of measurement here. There's pixels and there's EMs. I don't know what EM stands for, but that's the one you want to use because I'll just put pixel here so you can see what it looks like. But pixels are very small, right? And EMs, whatever they are a larger unit of measurement. So if you're wondering why you put something in and it's barely perceptible, it's probably because it's set up as pixels. Um, and again, you'll go through, you'll add in your text, you'll add in your images. If you want to add a button, this is another, I think, useful feature. This is just a clickable button. So the pencil icon is where you will go um, to add text here. So you can add whatever text you like. Um, you can align it however you like. I tend to do left alignment. Um, you can set the size. I tend to do large. You can make it rounded. You can make it square. I tend to do rounded. But you can set that up however you like. And then there's a separate tab here for link. So again, it's going to give you the option of using your pages or an external page. You will probably mostly be using external pages if you have Zoom signups or event registration pages. But we have the option of using salsa pages as well. Um, and then save. And that's what it looks like. If you want to change the container settings, again, it's this gear icon, and you can add in that. And a lot of times you'll be kind of going back and forth and saying, I like the way this looks. I like the way this looks. For example, if you see something where there's two blocks that are right on top of each other and you want to create some space, um, you can just go in this one and say, let's add in some padding at the bottom. Um, okay. So that's
What?
the rough run of how to put emails together. Hank, you had a question?
So the way we've been generating the Bay Area announcements is that I just use the previous month's announcement as a template, and I forward that or send it back to you
Yep.
um, with the edits that I want to put in. So the new address, the new agenda, and so forth,
Yep.
and then the links. And that's in an email. So you pull that out of it, comes into you probably in Gmail, I'm guessing.
Mhm.
And my question is, um, are you creating the new version of the meeting announcement using the template option in Salsa, or are you cutting and pasting from what I send you? And secondly, what I send you contains in the email the link that you know I've created for registration or whatever. Uh,
Yeah.
how do you handle that? The link also.
Um, since your emails are so similar from month to month, I will go in and just select the previous email as a template. Um, which I think in general I'd encourage people to do. Like once you have a template, just use that, and it's easier to make edits to that than to start from scratch. Um, but yeah, I'll use the template for the last one, and then I will basically copy and paste what you've emailed to me um, to replace the text from the last time. Um, yeah,
And then the link.
yeah,
So the link is each, we require registration for the meetings because I want to capture who's registered, and it also forces them to give the Bay Area chapter their email.
yeah,
So we have some contact information that we acquire by forcing them to register.
yeah,
But the registration, they can't use the old registration. They have to re-register each month, which
yeah,
means that I put in a different Zoom link
yeah.
that takes them to the registration page. So how do you handle that?
So I can show you. So for let me find an email that you would have sent to me. Okay, so this is what you would have forwarded to me. And basically, you've put together uh this. So I am copying and I am pasting. And that's it. So that will, the link that you have um in what you've put together outside of Salsa, when you're copying and pasting in here, um, it just copies and pastes. So yeah, it really is as simple as that. If you're writing something outside of Salsa, I would encourage people to use Google Docs because it plays nicely with Salsa. But if you use another program, just be aware you might have to do a little bit of format tweaking. Um, and then yeah, that's basically it.
And so is what Hank sent you coming from Google Docs, the thing you just copied and pasted from? Or is that from a Word document or an email? Because I'm confused.
I think
No, I send it out through Gmail, and
yeah.
yeah, and Dixon receives it in Gmail, I guess, right?
Yeah.
So that's an email. So you're able to cut and paste from an email and put it into this as well.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I just know I know for a fact that Google Docs works well with Salsa. Um, if you're taking text from any other source, whether it's an email or a Word document or something else,
Yeah.
like you'll be able to copy and paste it into Salsa.
Mm-hmm.
You just may run into some things that you would need to reformat. That's all.
Okay.
Um, okay.
So,
So
so basically, we create if we create the copy in a Google Doc,
yeah.
then we can cut and paste that into whatever email client we're using to send, but you're getting it formatted in Google Doc format. Is that fair to say?
If you're using a Google Doc, I would just copy and paste directly from the Google Doc into here.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, like, I'm writing this email in Google Docs and I'm just going to like do a little bit of formatting here. So let's say I want to bold something. Let's say I want to underline something. I do not recommend underlining an entire paragraph. Um,
But
but
Dick,
or
uh, so
But you
we
can
created a
copy
Google.
directly. Yeah, you can copy directly from here. You don't need to email this to yourself or do anything. Just copy and paste.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
We're not sending it. We're just yeah, I got
Creating
it.
it.
We're
Yep.
cutting and pasting it into the salsa
Yeah.
form.
It's
Okay.
also an option to write your email directly in Salsa, although I find it to be easier to do it in a separate program and then copy and paste here, mostly because sometimes people will want to review. But if you're sending a quick email, sometimes I will just write it directly in Salsa, in which case, this is a just kind of a standard text editor, and you can compose in one of these text blocks if you're comfortable doing that.
So I think Nancy Naparco is on, and she has asked a question in the chat about, so is Gmail equal to a Google Docs? And I think that's what I was trying to get to in my question. If I type something up in Gmail, is that good enough, or should I actually create it in a Google Doc?
If you type something up in Gmail, I think it will probably be just fine.
Okay.
Um, I just use Google Docs because um, it's it, so a lot of times when I'm putting an email together, I'm running it by staff or I'm running it by leadership and getting their feedback and edits, and
Yep.
Google Docs is pretty good for being able to facilitate that. Um, but uh, but yeah, if you compose something in an email and copy and paste it from there, it it should be fine.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So, let's say you have your email laid out. It's the way that you like it. I'll just mention really quickly. So this is a text box here that we have highlighted. Um, it's just has a different color background. Um, and the text itself, you can change the color of the text, which is right here. Um, you can also, if you want to highlight something in an email, which I will occasionally do, uh, hover over this background color, and you can, choose a color to highlight it in. So there are a few different like formatting options here, um, but you can also, if you want to, add a picture within a text box. I tend to steer clear of that, but it is an option. And sometimes if you have like a small vertically oriented picture,
Mhm.
it might be good to do that. So for example, like this one here, um, this I'm gonna change it to much smaller. Um, but this is, vertically oriented, and you can kind of add that in. Um, it's not something I recommend. You're gonna have to mess around with formatting. Um,
Yeah.
so alignment left. I almost never do this. So, but you could do something along these lines. Um, but I don't super recommend it, but it is an option. Okay, so
Comment about the logo. Um, that was created years ago. We've used it for both the state and the Bay Area chapter, but other chapters are welcome to use it. All we have to do is change the chapter name in the logo, and that's easily done.
yeah. All right.
So
So
can
what?
you, yeah, Dixon, could you demonstrate how to change that in the logo? Is it just edit and go take
Yeah.
out San Francisco and put in the right, I
Yeah.
guess?
So this is just an image block at the top. So
Hmm.
if you wanted to change this out, you would click on this pencil icon, and you would choose another logo. So you can't.
We can't edit San Francisco out of it.
No,
I can do it.
you're gonna do that
I can do it because I
separately,
have the original. I have the
Well,
original logo.
and then once you have the logo that you want to use, you can upload it and basically replace the one with the other. But I'll show you what it looks like. So for example, there's this PNHP California logo.
yeah,
Um, so if you were to click on that, save image, um, then it's just going to replace it. But you also have some options here in terms of sizing. So if you have it at 100%, it's going to take up the width of the email. Definitely do not recommend that. But you can change this slider. If you have a specific number in mind, I added it at 45%. Um, you can also change the alignment. So if you want the center aligned,
yeah.
or right, etc. So you can mess around with that. Um, but yes, to have the specific chapter level logo that you want, you'd have to create that outside of Salsa and then import it in and switch this out using this pencil line.
That answers my
I'll
question. So we can't edit
do
it,
it
but
for you.
Hank, you could create it for us.
Yes, do it. Very
Thank
simple.
you.
Yeah. All right.
And I guess the question I've got is this training is intended to train us so we can have a log on and go in and create messages for our organizations and our chapter meetings. and news we want to convey? Or are you looking to us to send you an email with the information and then, you're going to pull it together? That's what I'm just trying to understand. What's the goal?
Yeah, this is so you all can use Salsa and send these emails yourselves. So
Mhm.
you would have the login and the ability to put these together.
Okay.
So
Thank you. And then if we run into a snag in the process, do we just email you or we,
yes,
okay,
yes. And I'd be happy to, because there are some elements of salsa that are not super intuitive.
yeah,
So if you're laying out, but once you do it a few times, I feel like it becomes very intuitive.
okay.
Um, but yeah, if you're laying something out, and you have questions, or if you want to do it together with a screen share, the first time you're putting something together, I'm happy to do that as well.
Thank you, Dixon.
Yeah.
And I think back to my original question that had to do with the Napa, Santa Barbara chapters that were in that list that showed CRM. So, how will we know how that criteria was set up or who's on those lists? Is that something you're going to follow up with Matt on? I just want to know who's on the list that I'm sending to before I tap into it because I want to know, does it accurately reflect, the
Yeah.
membership?
Yeah. I will check in with Matt to see what the criteria was.
Thank
Uh,
you.
okay. So Nancy had a few questions in the chat. How do you create a Google Doc is a good question. So if you are logged into Google, for example, you can put so there's this series of dots at the top right. If you're logged into your Gmail in a browser, you
Yeah.
can click on that and then click on Google Docs
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
and it opens it up. Um,
Okay.
and then I'm moving windows around. So then you can just like create blank document and
Okay.
uh, and type away. How do you get into Salsa? So we would create an account for you and send you the link where you'll be able to log in.
Okay.
Um, and then people who have opted out of emails, they're just unsubscribed. So they would not be getting emails through Salsa.
I
Um, yeah, that's automatic. Um, every once in a while we have done we can run reports of people in certain groups who are unsubscribed. So these are going to be like smaller lists compared to our like a statewide list or a national list. Um, but we could run a report for you, for example, where um, we can say, we have X number of people um, in in this particular group assigned to this particular chapter, and here are the specific emails that are unsubscribed. Um, and so if you wanted to reach out to any of those folks personally,
Mhm.
then you would have the option of doing that. And that might be a manageable list of maybe like, a dozen or so people. Um, the bigger the chapter, the more people are going to be on that list. But that's an option of if you have a very high priority thing that you want to send people, or if you just want to send them a note to say, FYI, you're unsubscribed in our database. So if you want to get these types of emails, um, we'll have to resubscribe you. I do not know what CRM stands for. Um, but it's basically our fundraising
Well,
database.
yeah, it's usually a customer relationship management. That's kind of the CRM, but I don't know inside Salsa if the customer relationship database or?
Yes, it is. Matt mostly uses it for like membership and donation purposes.
Mhm.
So
So are you going to be sending us a link to create an account or what?
yes, I will send everybody who wants an account their login information, and you should get the information, and I think a prompt to set your password, and then you should be all set to log in.
So then, this is a COC thing, but we wanted some control over, who could send what to whom.
Yes.
So for example, I do the health policy seminar, so ideally I'd like to send to, the California members.
Yeah. Um, I'll have to remind myself of what the options are as we're setting up accounts. Um, but I am, uh, I know that we can set various levels of permissions. So we can give different accounts different permissions to be able to email different chapter groups.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, so we should be able to set that up however we want to, but I'll have to look at that um when I'm actually setting up the accounts. But we should have some flexibility there.
Suggestion.
Yeah.
So that I think since we have a statewide organization, that we should try to help one another, because I think some of these questions we can answer, and Dixon doesn't have to be the sole source of information. And then my experience in hospitals has been that when new IT systems are brought in, there are often people that are called super users. And I think that the COC could decide, and see what you think about this, Dixon, but let one person be the connection between all of our chapters and Dixon. And doesn't mean that, Nancy Greep or Deborah can't connect with Dixon, but bring the super user into it, because then that person becomes sort of more expert.
Yeah.
And as chapter chairs change or new chapters come on board, we can handle a lot of this amongst ourselves in California. So just, let's help ourselves, and let's think about the super user idea and make it as efficient as possible for everybody concerned.
Yeah. There is one other quick thing I want to show you, because once you have your email out, put together, you will want to send it. So the final step is when you click next here, um, and there's a few things you can do. So I always recommend sending yourself a test message. So you can click send the test. You'll just add your email in here. You can add whatever email you like. I have mine saved here. So you click send the test, it's going to show up in your inbox. Um, and I think, you'll want to take a look at how it looks, um, both on a desktop and on a phone if you can, um, and make any formatting tweaks that you might want to make. But the really big thing is you're going to want to check those links. So this is in my inbox now as a test message, and everything that has a link, I'm going to want to click on and make sure that it is going to the right place, because it does happen that sometimes the link will be dead. Sometimes it will be mistyped, etc. So check your links, check the way it looks. Once you're happy with that, then you can go in here and you can either send the link out or send the email out now, immediately, or you have two other options for scheduling it for a future time. So you can schedule it for a specific time. And I think, since these are California chapters, this one makes sense. So you can say, let's send this out May 7th and you can be as granular as you want here, 6:23 a.m. Pacific time. And then you would just click schedule blast. Uh, there's also the option to do rolling time zones, but I think since you're sending to California members, that's not something that I think is necessary. But when we send national e-blasts, oftentimes we will say, send it on such and such a date at such and such a time in the recipient's local time zone. So if we're sending something national and we want everybody to get it at 6:23 a.m. their time, we can do that too. But for your purposes, I think sending all at once, either immediately or at a specific time in Pacific time zone makes sense. And that's the basics of putting together and sending out emails through Salsa.
Thank you, Dixon.
For sure. I will mention really quickly this supporters tab is where we can import supporters. So if there are lists that you have from Zoom signups, which are not, going to be part of our database, or if there are lists that you have from tabling or from in-person meetings or wherever you might have these email addresses from, I'd say the easiest thing to do would be to just send me the spreadsheet. But just so you know, if you're adding supporters, you can import them. You upload a spreadsheet in a CSV format. And then I find that a list of just email addresses is totally fine. But if you were to look at somebody's at somebody's record, you'll see that there's different fields. So if you have additional information, we can add that too. First name and last name are different fields in Salsa. So if you have something where their full name is in a single field, I wouldn't import their name from that because then it's going to have their full name assigned to either first name or last name, and that wouldn't work well with the rest of our database. But in general, if I'm importing lists of emails, I tend to just do it as a list of emails only, unless we have really good information in other categories. And it's all the standard stuff, phone address, zip code, city, state. We have some fields for people's titles, etc. So,
so
yeah.
the take home that I'm hearing is that we should send you the spreadsheet and let you handle inputting the supporters. Is that right?
Yes, I would suggest that.
Okay. So up until now, the PNHP national website homepage has a place for contacts to sign up to receive e-blasts. And that's where I've been telling people to enroll as supporters. But I think it would be helpful if you could send us the screen you just showed us that has all of the fields that you see in Salsa, And
Yeah.
maybe even can we turn that into a web form? And then we could use that to, that's right. Right. Because that's more complete. So what do you think about, would that work well?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the more fields you have for a sign up form, the fewer people are going to sign up for it. Um,
Exactly.
but
Well,
so we have this pretty culled down to just the necessities for people signing up for email alerts. But but yeah, we have, there are other
but my
there are
is,
other ways of people getting in our database,
yeah,
like if
my
they
point
fill
is,
out a petition, for example.
yeah. So, sometimes I'll run into somebody and we have a conversation and I get them to sign up. But
Yeah.
as the conversation continues, I learn more about them. So then
Mhm.
I could fill out, not having them do, unless you want to do it that way, but I can come back and add additional information. So
Yeah.
for,
If there's something, so that's something where I think, like, if you were maintaining your own spreadsheet, um, that would be an easy way to do that. So, for example, like uh, Ed Weisbart for years had a spreadsheet of people in Missouri that he would, get to sign up when he was doing talks. Um, and it had a bunch of information, right? So sometimes it had, notes on, in addition to all the standard, like, name, email address, phone number, and address information. He would have like notes on their specialty. He would have notes on if they were a medical student or where they were going to school, things like that. And so he shared that with me, and I was able to, it was a living document. So I would go in occasionally and just download that and import it into Salsa. And anything that we already had in Salsa, Salsa would just ignore because we have it already. So even if there's one single thing that changes in the spreadsheet, there's no harm in re-uploading the whole thing. It is, um, if you're talking about making a single change um, to somebody's individual record, that's something that I would have to do, and I can do that on an individual basis. Um, but it would be me going in and looking them up, and if you're saying like, I mean, the obvious one would be like they have their address changes or something like that. But if somebody has you know, graduates medical school or, like starts residency in a certain, you know, right, in a program locally and they were going to medical school halfway across the country, something like that. So if we find out information like that, that's the kind of thing where there's not really like a form that they can fill out, or a way that you all could go in and kind of tweak the record. I think I would have to be the one to do that, or if there's a spreadsheet that is regularly something that you're keeping up to date, then I could go in and periodically upload that, and just the new stuff is going to be imported. Yeah.
so what I'm hearing you describe is a system that's a bit fragmented. It's not, maybe it could be more efficient. It certainly has pitfalls. So, what Ed Weisbart has done, I mean, I've done similar things, and Jeff G, as our chapter chair, did similar things, and then Jeff got killed in a vehicle accident. Okay. So the whole point is, and, tomorrow I might have a stroke and leave the scene. So the whole point, I think, is to have an efficient, unified, consistent system where all the data is under the custody of the national database. And that way we can keep our own notes, but when Jeff G got killed, it was just, you know, it was terrible. But whatever notes Jeff had at that point got lost.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So anyway,
I
I think
mean,
we should revisit this question at some later time,
yeah,
and you should advise us on how you want us to do it.
yeah. I think it depends too on like the frequency with which you're actually like collecting new contact information for people, because if there's a fair amount of it, then like yeah, we'll definitely want to make sure that that's incorporated into the national database. If
Mhm.
if it's more infrequent, then we can we can do that on a I think individual basis, and that's not a problem. But yeah, I think in general the sign up form is good. Um, is good for now, but if we want something that's a little more granular or a little more specific to kind of information that you'd like to capture and make sure is in the database, then we can look into that too.
All right. I think everybody else has dropped off, so I'm going to
Yes.
go ahead and drop off if we're finished for today. Thank you, Hank, for setting this up, and Dixon for taking us through everything. And I'll wait for the account set up and get that done.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
And if you all can get me um just the info on who specifically I should be setting up accounts for, then I'll go ahead and set those up.
Dixon, that'll come to you. Some of it'll come to you now,
Yeah.
and some will come after the COC meets, and we can share this with some of the chapters that we're missing today. But
Okay.
we'll make the recording available, and we'll be in touch about that. And so, yeah, I just want to echo the thanks that Deborah gave. This is really helpful, and I think it's going to take us a step further in the right direction.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
Sounds
Have a
great.
good week.
All
Bye-bye.
right.
Thanks.
Thanks all. Bye.
Great.